Hey guys, everything new under the sun. Well, what you're looking at is a nice new painted floor, all, well, just plain porch gray or concrete paint gray. Um, I'm going to talk to you about this, but look at, I did do a time lapse of the actual application of this. So let's run that now.
All right, so this is the time lapse that I took. Like I said, or like I maybe said after this clip, it was about 5 degrees that I think I was getting antsy to get to work on the Airstream again after winter. It's been cold out, so I just got this bucket, kind of standard bucket from Canadian Tire of porch, I think, and concrete floor paint, just your standard kind of outdoor. Of course, it can be used indoor as well. Just a heavy duty thick covering paint. And so I did some cutting in there just to not get too much gray paint on the boards. Although I do say again later that I think we're gonna paint everything white. So I just got a brush out, and with this kind of paint, I mean, you don't really wash the brush out. I don't think with this stuff, you kind of use up your roller. So I tried. I was careful not to lock myself in there, and of course I had to put everything up on the table, as you can see there, a lot of stuff. And I did vacuum it all to get as much dust out of it as I could. I wasn't too concerned, a little bit of dust, it's just going to get trapped in the paint. My main thing was getting as much paint down as I could, putting it thick and heavy down there, because the thicker it is, the better it's going to soak in, the better it's going to preserve the plywood around the corners, etc. And the thicker it will be, and better, it'll be stronger in general.
So that was what you just saw, of course, was a time lapse, and I think I would have overdubbed it with some information as to what I was doing. But what I plan to do next here is go ahead and I need to do a second coat on here. And it smells very painty in here. I did this when the temperature was about 6 degrees. You're really probably supposed to do it when the temperature is a lot warmer. But I've been waiting for winter to get out of here, and that's not coming too quickly, so I figured I'd go ahead and start work on it, at least when it was above zero during the day. So I did that, and I think it looks much better. It's now a lot more protected from water, moisture, etc. I have a couple of small leaks around the side here. You can see a little bit of water here, because I think there was water when it rains. It comes in this back panel. I have some sealing up to do, but this will keep the wood dry, keep it protected. And I think for now this will be a good base. I do need to put a second coat on, and then probably what we'll do is put some tiles down, some flooring of some sort. But we're nowhere near putting any of that down. So the next step would be that second coat, and then we're thinking about painting the walls white, and maybe even the cupboards. We'll see how that turns out. I'm probably going to build some bunk beds here for the kids. We seem to have come to agreement that makes a lot of sense for how we're going to use it. And I'm looking for a futon for the front. But back to the painting, the general painting here. We need to paint all this white, because I think that'll give us a fresh look. I can't really restore the original wood look, because of course these back walls are cut up. They're all rotten, and so I don't know if I should bother trying to replace or redo a lot of that work. And I think painting everything white would give it a fresh overall new look of the camper. So that's what we're looking at doing as the temperature warms up. Now that's going to take a lot of effort, because these covers are pretty fiddly to paint, and we'd have to take off some hardware. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, we may not have to do a lot for the actual hardware here, because it looks like the hardware is all broken off here for the actual latches that keep these shut. I'm looking up here, and this is actually, every one of these is broken off. So I'm not sure how that originally latched, to be honest. I don't see any latches on any of them. They're all broken off. So that being said, it should be fairly easy, actually. I thought it was going to be harder, because we wouldn't necessarily need to paint these. I don't know, it's hard to say. We could paint them, I guess. There's no knobs on it to take off, which is what I was worried about. So we could probably just paint off the aluminum and just paint that white. And it just kind of gives it a nice white wash. Get rid of this. You put on some of the textured paint that you can get from the paint stores, and that will cover up a lot of the bumps and imperfections. This was sanded down, but it still has the glue from the original wall covering that was on there. So a fresh coat of kind of thick textured paint or something like that, I think, would work really well in here, just to give us a clean slate to work with, and then we can start, doing flooring or putting in furniture or building the bunk beds like we want to. So that's what's next. I think is the second coat here, and then we'll get this all painted white so that we got a clean slate. And then we can proceed. For the electrical part of it, I'm kind of done the electrical part. We kind of have to finalize what we're doing. I just put everything up on the beds here. While I was painting the floor, you can see I got my welder up on the table there. I am currently in the hunt for a futon. I think the futon is the best way to go. The easiest thing that would slip in here that would be perfect. It acts like a gaucho. You put it into couch mode, and then when you're ready for bed, you just slip it down into bed mode. This is 70 inches across here, which is the width of kind of the standard futon, and also it's basically 70 inches from kind of the corner of the stove to the back there. So I think it would work perfectly. That assumes that this table can be folded up, and it should be able to. We should be able to kind of fold that down and then pull the futon out. And like I said, I think the futon is kind of the quickest way to getting a couch / bed in here, and you can get some fairly nice ones with some wood sides on them and that sort of thing. So I'm looking to that towards that, looking to acquire one of those. I'm waiting for them to come up on Kijiji secondhand, so I don't have to spend a ton. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I've got an Airstream. Well, I've mentioned the Airstream Life subscription, but I'm going to start keeping all these in the Airstream so that when we go camping, we can look at the backlog of Airstream magazines again, just for ideas and inspiration. In terms of this, I'm not going to do anything with this right now. I was wiring it up to be 12 volts, so this light over here is now 12 volt, which is the way I think it was originally. But the fact that these have 120 volt plugs on them is weird to me, which makes me think these are actually aftermarket wall mounts. So someone put the valences on, and I think, like I said, I think these are aftermarket. These are just meant for 120, and someone had wired this for 120, but I put it back to 12 volt. So I'll probably just kind of take this off and see if I can find some more original fixtures there, which are 12 volt. Here you can see where someone was painting up here, and the painting's all peeling. This is the fiberglass. You can see the fiberglass back there. So we'll have to kind of wire brush a lot of that down and then get some sort of paint that will work. A little bit of an update on this skylight. This skylight is brilliant. It's actually nice and warm up there. It's no leaks at all. It's sealed very well. You can see some of the putty there in the corner that was used. This thing works perfectly. I love this skylight. It's worked really well. It wasn't cheap. I forget what it was. $150 or $200 to get that skylight, but it's working really well. I've got these little LEDs. I showed this in another video. This socket's a little bit goofy, but that is running off 12 volt, a little 12 volt socket, regular socket E27, I think. You can see DC 12 volt on there. So these are really brilliant little light bulbs. I've also got this light all done up as well, just for a little update. I think most of you have seen these ones. But that's all working, so it's not perfect, but it works. Another thing I have to change out is this fan. Because we probably won't be having a bathroom in here anytime soon, I'm not going to worry about a fan. I'll probably just put another vent up there, just a regular air vent to wind up on. So a vent for each of these holes. Other than that, yeah, I think the next step is to paint, or finish the painting here. I have not finished painting in here, so I need to clean this out, vacuum it out, and get to putting the gray paint in there. So that's kind of the next step, next part of the process that I need to do, that you'll see in the next video, basically. So stay tuned for that. It's slow, and this is really the boring part of the project, before we can kind of get to building out the interior. But this needs to be done to seal it up, to seal up the floor, so that they don't rot, and they're gonna the life will be preserved as long as possible. And of course, I can't clean up the electrical really until I'm ready to start building stuff. So we really need to get everything painted, and then I can start cleaning up the electrical and that sort of thing. Because we'll have a much better idea where we want to go. So what we want to do is, we have 3 kids. So what we're going to do is, and I've seen pictures of it, put a bunk bed right here. So you can sleep one here, one up here. Same for this other side. We only have 3 kids, but you might as well have 4 bunks, because on the top, on the 4th bunk, you could have all the suitcases, for example. Or you could have an extra person staying with you if you want. So I think the bunks make a lot of sense. They kind of maximize the use of this space. I mean, this, you don't really use this space for a couch or anything anyways. And as long as the bunk is high enough, I mean, the kids can sit up underneath, inside the bunk and read a book or something like that. And I can add some 12-volt lights underneath the bunk. So I think that'll work out fine. Other than that, that's the updates, I think. For now, it is the whoops. It is the start of April. What is it? April 2nd right now? This one won't go in. Here we go. It is the start of April, and I'm hoping as soon as it warms up, it's about 4 degrees outside today. You can still see snow on the ground. Not really ideal for painting. I snuck this paint in when it was probably 5 degrees above, and it's still not fully cured in a lot of places. It's still very painty in here, and I need to do a second coat. Even though I've tracked a little bit of mud in, because it's been so muddy, it's been above and below 0 degrees Celsius for a number of days here, so it's miserable. So I got a half a can left of paint to do that, and then I'll probably get to painting the interior. And I may get some help. I may pay someone just to kind of help me get part of that finished, because it's a fair amount of work, and it just speeds it up, and it may help out a friend to pay to get some of that done as well. So it's always fun to get someone else helping in here as well. I can get a lot more done when you get a couple of people working on it. So that is that. So I'll leave that video there. A little update on the camper, some ideas for what we're doing. Can't wait to get the futon there to see how that's going to play out, see how that's going to look. I do have I have a pull-out couch underneath that little John Deere riding tractor. Problem is, I don't think it's as deal as a futon. It's certainly not as light as a futon. And I think once it pulls out, I think if you pull out that bed, I mean, the bed would probably come to, past the stove. I got it just because I thought it might be interesting to see if it might work, but I don't even think it will fit through the door, to be completely honest. I don't think it'll fit through that door. And like I say, it's just not the ideal type, I guess. Once it gets warm, it's something I may pull out, measure up, and just see, if by chance it does fit in here. But again, it's not really the ideal, and I'm kind of it's a tiny bit sketchy, because in the pull-out bed, it's a hide bed. So you take out the covers and you pull out the bed and roll it out basically, and there was some lace in there. So even that, like the cushion and such on it, will need to be replaced. But that's kind of what's sitting under the tarp there, which you can't really see, but you can kind of see the corner of it here, where it's kind of like a plaid color. You probably can't see that either, but again, I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's an ideal thing. It's not very light and airy. I think the futon is kind of a best option here outside of building your own gaucho. And even if you were to build your own gaucho, I think the futon, it's so easy to replace. If you need to replace the bed, you just get a different futon, and you can usually get them for $50 on Kijiji. Canadian, that is. So that's kind of the state where we're at. So like I say, I think the next video you'll see will be us getting some of this interior painted and getting some of the base coat in here and brightening this up. I still have no idea what I'm going to do with this gun rack. This is a big cutout here, so if I take that out, there's going to be a big hole in the Airstream. I could put a window in there, which is something I've thought about. But to find a window that fits there that is okay for actually traveling on a road, shattering to pieces from the bumpiness, I don't know how I would find that. So a piece of plexiglass could work very well, and that may work. It would need to be a good thick piece of Lexan, like I'm talking like this. This is Lexan plastic, a big thick piece that I could cover that whole thing with. Could be very interesting, and then just put a curtain on it when we wouldn't want to see it. But that would give us a whole new window, really. And I hadn't thought about that before, so maybe I'll look into Lexan for it. So, anyways, I'll leave it there, guys. A little bit of an update where we are. The winter is slow for getting things done because it's freezing out, freezing weather, and it's miserable. I can't work on the marker lights outside. I can't really do much painting, etc. Unless I was to heat this in here, and I don't really have a heater that I can put in here. So thanks for watching. A little bit of an update for you, and we'll see you guys in the next Airstream video.